I'm Marcia O'Malley with Mindful Media Services, and thank you so much, Dave and NCET, for having me today. It's such a joy to be able to see everyone's face even when we can't be together. And I'm hoping that today with my talk about Zoom, you're going to learn a few new things about it that you might not know. I know we've all been forced to be using it in some ways, and then some of us have just been naturally using it quite a bit within our business. But today I hope that I bring a few nuggets that will help you to do it better. So I want to, before we get started, let you know that I have an assistant working with me today, Jen Taylor. You want to wave to everybody? And I'll be talking about why it's important for a meeting of this size to have somebody assisting you. I think logistically you can tell my eyes can't be everywhere. I can't be monitoring everything. So she's going to be helping me out quite a bit during the course of all of this. So I am going to start my slideshow for you and share my screen. There, now can everyone see the title slide? Yep, nod your head, perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so if you signed up for this, you're in the right place. Zoom etiquette, best practices, and advanced features. And I am Marcia O'Malley. I'm the founder of Mindful Media Services, and I'm a videographer. I work with small businesses, nonprofit organizations, and entrepreneurs, helping them create video that makes a difference to them, to their organizations, to the world. I help them to increase their visibility online, and right now I'm helping people not only increase their visibility, but I help them to get online, to stay online, and to do business online. So today you're going to learn a couple of things. First of all, you're going to learn how to join a meeting. Second, how to schedule and host a meeting. And third, how to use some advanced features. But most importantly, you're going to learn how to keep safe online. There's been a lot of talk about security breaches over the last couple of weeks, and I want to show you some of the ways that you can ensure security within your Zoom meeting. And know that nothing is perfect. There is always a will for some evil person out there who wants to do something nasty. But if you are diligent and you follow some great practices, you should be able to avoid that. So let's take a quick poll here. I want to know of those of you that are here. Let me take a look. We've got 82 people. Holy tamale. All right, of you 82 people, let me know, how familiar are you with Zoom? Are you a newbie? Are you just kind of learning right now? Or are you an expert? I'm going to launch the poll, and I'd like you to answer it in the next 30 seconds. Okay, can you all see the poll now? I see people are starting to answer it. I get to see the poll in progress live. This is a very cool feature of Zoom. And if none of you have used it before when you've hosted, I strongly encourage you to do that. So it looks like the majority of you all are learning. A couple of you are experts. I want to talk to the 8 of you that are the experts because I think we have a lot we can exchange. And a few of you are just newbies. Great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. It looks like you all have answered. Thank you for doing that. And I'm going to share the results with you just because I can, and I want you to understand this feature. So can you all see the poll results? Those pop up? Can you nod your head if you see them? Yes, great. Thank you very much. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the poll results. And for those of you that are hosts, along your bottom menu bar, there's an option to create a poll. And if you haven't used it before, I encourage you to, because it's really fun. Like right now, it's helping me establish the learning level and the learning curve that might be present today. And that's going to help me in my delivery for the rest of this presentation. So thank you. And so I wanted to share a real interesting quote I found. I think this might really help put things into perspective about Zoom. I first envisioned Zoom when I was a freshman in college in China and regularly took a 10-hour train ride to visit my girlfriend, who is now my wife. I detested those rides, and I used to imagine other ways I could visit my girlfriend without traveling. Those daydreams eventually became the basis for Zoom. And that comes from Eric S. Yan, the founder and the CEO of Zoom. How cool is that? You know, his whole intention was wanting to build a stronger connection to someone he really loved. You know, we think of Zoom, I think more often than not, as a way to connect to someone just in business. You know, we need to have a business call, and it's easier to do it through video or telehealth. We were just talking about that during our networking time. But the founder wanted to actually connect with his girlfriend. I mean, I just found that pretty cool, pretty fascinating. So I wanted to give you just a quick overview about Zoom for those of you that are new to it. They have several different plans and pricing points for those plans. You can sign up for free and be able to use it for nothing. The only limitation is that you can only go for 40 minutes and when you do a meeting where you have more than 3 people connected. And at 40 minutes, and I mean exactly at 40 minutes, they cut you off. And I'll talk about an exception to that in a few minutes. And then they have a pro plan that's $15 a month, $14.99. That's the plan that I have. You can have up to 100 people in your room. So I'm hoping we don't go over that today. I think we're still at 92. Okay, so we're 8 away. Could max out, but hopefully not. But it gives you all sorts of features that you need to run an effective meeting. And then if you want to go into something that is a little bit larger, if your company might be bigger, you might need to have more people hosting, for example. You need more participants. You can go into the business plan, and there you can include up to 300 participants. The enterprise, of course, is their largest one, and that's where you can have 500 participants and all sorts of other features. But if you have not signed up for a Zoom account yet, I encourage you to, because it gives you a lot of opportunity to be able to connect, whether you're using it for business or right now for personal reasons. You might want to visit your family. And Zoom is doing other things as well. So they have a whole unit dedicated to education. And right now, for accounts with a school, you know, kindergarten to 12th grade, they are waiving that 40-minute limit. So you can have unlimited time for free. I thought that was a really nice thing for them to do right now. They also have a telehealth option. And this actually is HIPAA compliant. We were talking a few minutes ago in the chat about how it might not, but they do have an option. It is a much higher fee, obviously, because it's a whole new level of encryption and security. And it comes with the ability to have up to 10 hosts. And then for any of you who are developers, anyone making any kind of new software program, you can incorporate the functionality of Zoom into it as well. So, how to join a Zoom meeting? And more importantly, what do you do once you're there? So, it may seem a little bit confusing here, how to join a meeting, but it's not really. You can do it pretty simply. In the center of the screen, you see in sort of the gray rectangle, the typical invitation that you receive when you've been invited to come to a meeting. And in that includes a long URL, a password. Most of them are including passwords right now as an added level of security, and also a meeting ID. So if you do not have a Zoom account, you can just click on the URL and directly go to sign into the meeting. If you do have an account, you can take the meeting ID, go to open up your account, and just incorporate the meeting ID, click on the join button, and then it will prompt you for the password. Now, some Zoom etiquette. This is really important, but also silly. You see the picture that I have up in the right-hand corner of this cute little Yorkie. You know, if you only are using audio, you can look like crazy wild-haired Yorkie. Or if you've got video, you spruce yourself up a bit and make yourself look a little bit more presentable, right? Well, a couple of things that I recommend you always do. Be sure to turn on your video. You know, while the meeting is going on, it's really nice to be able to see all the faces and to be able to interact. You know, I'm not on a stage where I'm right in front of you and I can actually read your body language and get some sense of, you know, if I say something a little bit funny, you're going to chuckle. And if you don't have your video on, I have no idea if anything's coming through to you at all. So it would be really helpful for you to just, you know, pop on the screen if you can. I'd really appreciate that. And for other meetings you attend, do the same. It's just a nice, respectful thing for the speaker. If you are not speaking, please mute your audio. Otherwise, we'll get a lot of background noise and it gets disruptive. And then when you do have an opportunity to ask a question, for example, or do part of a presentation, be sure you're looking into your camera. You know, there's nothing worse than having someone be presenting to you and they're looking off to the side like this, and the camera was really up there. So pay attention to where that is and participate. You know, you're here to learn things. You're here to understand some new concept perhaps, or you're here because maybe it's a meeting, you know, of a board that you serve on. Whatever it is, you know, be here, be present, and actually engage. You know, provide information in a chat if you don't want to interrupt the speaker as they're speaking. Whatever it is, raise your hand. You've got little icon hands now that you can use to raise your hand. But whatever you do, please don't walk away with your camera, and don't walk away from your camera, particularly if you're not wearing pants. Now, this might seem like kind of a joke, but I have to tell you, this last couple of weeks, I have seen some amazing video clips, and I'm going to share 2 of them with you because I want this to be ingrained in your mind so you will never forget that when you are on video, you are on video and everyone's watching. Okay, give me just a second here to share my screen with this video. And this is entitled Poor Jennifer. And you'll see why.
How long it's been versus like some other professions, say a few years or whatever. I think it really depends on just like the ethical standards of the profession. And in reality, I've heard that social work kind of has very high standards and like good standards in terms of things, and that oftentimes people of other professions don't have. Yeah.
Hold on.
What happened?
I saw nothing.
What happened? That's the question. Did you all see, even though the squares were pretty small, what took place there? This woman was using her phone to connect onto the Zoom meeting, and she realized she needed to use the restroom, so she just grabbed her phone and went into the bathroom, and you could see her sitting down there. I mean, how horrifying was that? And she became the laughing stock of the internet for a couple of days there.
Her phone was stuck to her foot when she walked out.
Yes, yes. Okay, now I have another one to share with you. Hold on while I get this full screen for you.
All right. Hope you guys doing?
Here we go.
Goodbye.
All right. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
See you guys.
So you all get the idea. He had his shorts on, but he looked like he had, you know, a nice little t-shirt. He looked respectful for the meeting, but when he stood up, he was there in all of his glory. So we really need to pay attention to when we're on camera and when we're not. And certainly, you know, for an event like this, maybe you are going to be online for a protracted period of time, an hour or so. I absolutely understand if you need to go take a bathroom break, or you need to go, you know, deal with the dog that's barking in the backyard or whatever. And when you do, just mute your video. And then when you come back, turn it back on. Then we know you're here, we know you're present, and it's all good. Okay. And how are we doing, Jen? Do we have any questions coming up yet? I hope not. I'm kind of zipping through all of these slides.
The only thing, and I couldn't find the answer really quick, is if you can use the poll feature on the free account, and I'm not sure if you can or not.
I don't know either. So we'll find that out for you.
I'm looking.
Great, thanks. Okay, so a few best practices for you guys to keep in mind when you're attending a Zoom meeting. First of all, be sure that your camera is positioned so it's either at eye level or slightly above. I've actually positioned mine slightly above today so that I have full view of my screen because I'm using two screens right now. But there's nothing worse than having, you know, a laptop way down here looking up at a double chin, you know, in a belly. So if you can at all prop your camera up so that it's at least at eye level or above, that would be fabulous. And mostly having you in the frame, you know, rather than, you know, your whole kitchen in the background or something. And then make sure you have some light source in front of you. You don't have to have a professional light kit, but you do need to have maybe a lamp in front of you, or you can be sitting in front of a window so the light is on you rather than behind you. Because there's nothing worse than having a whole bunch of guests on a Zoom call and most of them are backlit so that all you see is a silhouette of them. It's kind of creepy for one thing, and you know, I like to see your face. I like to see how you're doing. And again, look right at the camera when you're addressing a question and clear the space up behind you a little bit. You know, you don't have to have the most immaculate office right at the moment or room that you're in, but you know, make sure that it doesn't detract from you being on camera. And then mute your phones, alert whoever is in your household that you're going to be going live so that they can be respectful of the time too. I know our animals are not always as respectful, but you know, if a cat wanders in or a dog does, I totally get it, totally understand. Or if a young child comes in and they have some important thing that they need from you, absolutely address it. Just mute your video for a minute till you're taking care of it and then come back. Okay. Nope. So, how to host a meeting. Now that you know how to participate as an attendee, we want to get some more practice around doing a host. Now, how many of you, put in the chat, how many of you have been hosting meetings? I'd like to get a good idea of the hosting versus just attending here as well. Jen, you let me know when you get a good representation of that, and I'll keep going on with this information. You know, the first thing you really need to do when you're hosting a meeting is try to think of it ahead of time. Now, there are some times when you need to host a meeting and you just need to do it instantly. There are definitely valid times to do that. But for the times that you can actually plan something out and actually schedule it, there's some preparation that I suggest you do. And first of all, create your agenda, create your slide deck, have a clear outline, something that's going to guide you through the content that you're going to be presenting. Make sure that you know what is the real purpose and intention of this gathering. And then schedule the meeting and invite people to join you. And in that invitation, be sure that they have all of that, standard Zoom invitation information so that they can join you whatever way they can, whether it's by the URL, whether they need to, exclusively connect by phone because they won't be anywhere near any device to be able to connect, or they can do it just in their browser. And then take the time. Oh, Jen, you got some information for me?
Yeah, well, Matt asked, and I know that this has been an issue for some people. About 30% of the time, myself or other participants complain they can't get into the meeting. They get the message, your host has another meeting in progress. So it's about correctly initiating the meeting. I know I do like 15 at least Zoom meetings a week. And when that happens, I get out and go back in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's being used so much as a glitch, but I also didn't know if you had, because you're just talking about preparing for the meeting and getting on.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really true. I mean, anytime that you get stuck and you don't have an opportunity to have anyone provide technical assistance, drop out of the meeting and try back again. And 90% of the time you get in. That's been my experience. Yeah.
But does that dump everybody else too?
No. Now, as a host, that's a whole different story. You would just restart the meeting and then people would just rejoin. But I would not do that after the first 2 or 3 minutes of going online. But I'll get into that in step 2, where you need to be online early enough to troubleshoot any of that. So in preparation for your meeting now, you want to assemble all of your digital content. So you notice so far in my presentation, I've had a couple of things I've shown you. I've shown you my face, I've shown you my slide deck, and I've shown you 2 videos. In the slide deck, I had images on just about every page of the slide deck. So I needed, to put all of those assets together in order to be ready to actually start the meeting. And sometimes people are really great at doing this and they can do it 2 weeks in advance or a month. The topic that I'm talking about today has been changing so rapidly that I finished this probably about 2 hours ago. But, it depends on the content, and you just need to be sure that you have all of that put together ahead of time. And then test your audio and your video. You can do that before you ever go live, just to be sure that the microphone that you thought was hooked up really is. So what I do is I go ahead and start a Zoom meeting for the heck of it, just with myself. And I go ahead and record myself for a minute using the microphone and the camera that I have to be sure that it's all working. And then I play it back to be sure that it is. And if it's not, I tweak things until everything's working right. Then once you've put all of your material together, it really makes a lot of sense to do some practice. There's nothing worse than going to a presentation and you see that someone really is not familiar with their content. They're reading every single note, they're referring to things that you can't see, and they're nervous about it all. The best thing you can do to get over those jitters is to just run through it a couple of times before you ever go live. And that way, you're much more likely to stay in the flow and not get distracted if something comes up. And then lastly, depending on the size of the audience that you're going to have and the style of the presentation you have, I strongly encourage you to have some kind of a team with you. Now today I have Jen working with me so that she can look at some of the aspects of the meeting that I just can't pay attention to right now. In addition to checking the chat, she's also making sure that none of you are, trying to do anything that we might question. Maybe there would be one of you that had a noisy background and you had not muted your phone, you know, she could actually go and mute you for me. You know, I wouldn't have to go struggling looking around for that. But in other situations, I just want to share a few examples with you. I was in a meeting earlier this week and there were probably 350 people on it. And I know just by looking at the names of the people that were attending, there were at least 3 staff members there in addition to the speaker. And each of them had something that they were particularly watching out for and helping out with. But it was done so seamlessly that you had no idea. I also attended another event where I was part of a team that was supporting a speaker. And it was for another networking group that included, let's see, we used a waiting room so that as people signed in, they stayed in a waiting room until one person checked our registration list and let them in one by one. So if you want to be sure that the people that are coming in are only the folks that you want in, that's the best way to do it. The other thing, I was the technical person, so if anyone had issues with technology, they texted me or called me so I could help, you know, troubleshoot their issues. We had a couple of those come up so I could help them out with that, and with no interruption to the speaker. All of this happens in the background so that the speaker can just do what they need to do. We had another person who monitored the chat and gave an introduction to a guest speaker. And then the host also broke us up into small breakup rooms, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes too, about how you can use that feature. So there was a lot going on, but the meeting went seamlessly because we all were working together to make that happen. So be thinking about how you want your meeting to flow, what elements in it do you need to have assistance with, and make sure that you have folks there that can do it. So step 2 is actually hosting your meeting. So there are a couple of things that I think are really important for you to do when you're hosting. Arrive early. Say you're going to start your meeting at 10 o'clock. Come on at 9:45 and make sure that you can get in with no problem, that your audio and your video are working. And then you can just mute yourself until people start coming in or until you have your wait room in process. But be sure you're there in enough time ahead of the schedule to be sure to work through anything that might have come up at the last minute. And then be sure that your attendees are greeted in some fashion, you know, whether that's, you know, sharing a slide initially that just says, hi, welcome, or you have a physical person who is the greeter who starts conversations with them as they come in, you know, or a prompt, you know. Some meetings I've been to will have a question posted and they'll say, you know, as you come in, please answer this question in the chat area. You know, do something so people get engaged right away and, you know, see that someone is present and they will stay present with you. And then decide how to manage your meeting. How are you going to handle questions and comments? So for this presentation today, I have Jen looking at any questions that have been popping up in the chat area. I'm going to have a question and answer period at the end of the talk too, so that you'll have the opportunity to ask me directly. But figure that out ahead of time, because there's nothing worse than coming on to your talk, getting into that first couple of minutes where you're just really revved up, you're really excited, you're sharing really well, you think everything's going great, and then somebody asks you a question out of the blue and it throws you off. You know, it's much better to have that figured out ahead of time. And then be sure to start your meeting on time. Respect people's time right now. I think one of the things that is very interesting to see unfolding is that people are assuming that you have all of this extra time now that we're working from home. But I'm like Jen, I've had my business running from my home office for 8 years. So this is not new to me. It's just a matter of not making it over to all of my favorite coffee shops or to the lunch spots, you know, where we're having our networking events. But I'm not that much more available than I was. I don't have that much more spare time. So be respectful of everyone's time. And if it looks like you might be running a little bit over, ask very respectfully if people can stay. And if they say yes, then give them that extra 10 minutes. And if not, then wrap it up, you know, be respectful of that time. And then, you know, by and large, it's really important to record your meetings. It depends on what you're doing it for, but, you know, for example, today I'm recording this. The recording and my slide deck are going to be available for anyone to view through NCET's website. And there may be times where you need to record it because you're going to use it for ongoing training, or you might be archiving it in your YouTube channel. And there are all sorts of reasons for recording it. Even if you record it and don't use it publicly, it's really great to record it so you can watch yourself. How did you really perform online? You know, and what can you do better next time? There's nothing like being able to watch yourself and, you know, cringe all the way, but also realize you did it and give yourself credit where credit's due, and then do better next time. When you start your meeting, always have a nice introduction where you share some of the etiquette that I've shared with you, making sure people will mute themselves to avoid any background noise, encourage them to stay on video so that you guys can see each other's faces. And then be sure throughout your presentation to engage your audience. There are all kinds of little ways of doing that. And you've noticed a couple of things I've done. I did the poll right from the get-go. I asked you another question just a few minutes ago. I'll be doing that throughout the rest of the presentation because I want to be sure, first of all, that I'm hitting the mark, that I'm speaking to the right audience and I'm giving you the information you're looking for. And I'm making sure that you're paying attention to what I'm saying, which is really important. You know, also with your presentation, you want to be sure that whatever it is you're sharing, that you're sharing it on a large enough screen that people can read it. Now, Jen, you and I talked about this a few minutes ago before we started. How have I done so far? Has just about everything I've shared, has that shown up well for you to be able to view on your laptop?
Yeah, and that was a concern that I had. Because I do so many meetings, if you are the host or you are sharing your screen and it's a Google Doc, you know, I'm like up here and squinting and I can't read it. If you transfer your information, if it's not interactive, and you transfer it to a PowerPoint or a Google, whatever, same thing, Google Sheets or whatever it's called for PowerPoint on Google. If you transfer it there, it shows up much more clear. Mm-hmm. So that is my recommendation.
Very cool. Very cool. So the other thing that you can do as a host is you can save the chat, and you also have the ability to let others save the chat. Right now, I have kept that feature available for all of you. So if any of you want to save what's gone on in the chat at the end, all you have to do is go over to the chat, and where you have the ability to type in your little chat question, just over to the right, there are 3 little gray dots in a little gray outline box. And if you click on that, it gives you a little menu that includes Save Chat. And at whatever point you click on it, that's the part of the chat that you will save. So if you want all of it, wait until the end of the presentation and save it then. Okay. And then finally, when you're all done, there's a little bit of follow-up after the meeting. Depending on what you've recorded your video for, you need to deal with that. So today, after this presentation is done, I will be saving my video onto my hard drive. I will rename it to reflect the name of this talk, and I will be sharing that through my Google Drive along with the slide deck so that Dave can take it and upload it onto the NCET website. So that's going to be my biggest follow-up, but there may be other things that you need to do. I have a training program I'm doing right now, and after every live session I do on a Friday, I go through that video and I actually edit it so I have smaller chunks for people to be able to watch. You know, it's an hour and a half of material, but I break it up into 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, depending on the content. So you may have a need like that as well. So think ahead of it as you're preparing for your meeting. You know, what are you going to do in the end with what you have? Now, if you don't record it and you're just finished and it was a live meeting done and there's nothing else you need to do, then bless you and go on your way.
I'm gonna open up some questions real quick if I can.
You bet.
There's one thing, and I don't know if this is true, where the person's name is, you know, yours says Marcia O'Malley. Some people put an email or just numbers. I had one guy that was like best guy in the world. It was just ridiculous. Someone said that they think that you as the host can change the person's name, and I'm not sure about that. I haven't had any experience.
I don't believe I can change your name, but you can change your name.
Yeah, I know that the person can, but I don't know if we can.
Let me just double check here.
Okay, but I have
I
great questions. Okay.
I can rename any of you.
Oh, that's scary. Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. Do you
very-
want to do a couple more questions or you want to wait?
This is actually a good breaking point before we get into the security. Yeah. What else came up?
So can you discuss using Zoom for Facebook Live?
I'll be getting to that.
Okay. Glare on glasses. So you have the light set up and there's a lot of glare.
Are these glaring?
No.
Okay.
Nope. But Bryn asked about it, and I know that has come up as other questions. When you have proper lighting, there's a glare, and I'm not sure how to get past that.
Okay, so let me show you a couple things. Here's another pair of glasses, and see how I've got a lot of blue on them now. I have that. It's a filter that goes on my glasses so that it keeps the blue rays from the screen off of my eyes. And so when I wear these, even though they're a better reading glass for me, it reflects a lot of the blue. Now, when you do add lighting in front of you, you need to have it off to your side and up. I have a professional soft light right here in my room, and you wouldn't know it because you're not seeing it reflecting off of anything, because I play around with where the position needs to be. So that's just something you gotta just trial and error, you know, set it up, you know, record yourself with it. And if it looks good, great, keep it. And if not, make an adjustment. You know, if the glare is still hitting, raise it up, maybe move it a little bit further away. And it's something that, I mean, it's not one size fits all. It depends on the space you're in, and it depends on what kind of light you're using, and it depends on what you're wearing, depends on the kind of computer or phone that you're using. You know, there are just a lot of factors involved.
So you have to play with it, basically.
Gotta play.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only other, I think I've answered all of the questions, but the only other question that Dave actually asked is, can you get the list of participants?
No.
I didn't think so, but okay. That's it for right now.
Great. Thank you. So this might actually be a good time to share the menu bar. Would you guys like to know more about each of the features on the menu bar for a host? I think that makes more sense. Let me stop sharing my PowerPoint.
That's come up a lot. That's come up a lot.
That was going to be the next thing I was going to do. Okay.
Also saving the chat. And no, you cannot get a list of people who are in the Zoom meeting.
No. And that, I think, has become more of a security issue than ever. Just making sure that your privacy is respected. Okay, I'm going to share this screen now, and this should work. You all see my menu now? My whole menu bar down here. And all of your beautiful faces here. Look at that. 87 people. Look at all of you. So I am looking at you right now in speaker view. You have the opportunity to view either speaker view or gallery view. I'm going to go back to speaker because I want you to pay attention to the menu down here. So on the far left, you'll see that there is a little microphone icon. You see the green going up and down on it. It's fluttering because it's recording my voice. And I can mute it. I can unmute it right here. And then there's a little white arrow right next to it. And that's where you can click on it and find how you can decide which microphone you're going to be using and which speaker you're going to be using. And you can test your speaker and your microphone from here. And you can also check your audio settings as well. So right now I'm using my webcam and I'm using the microphone from it. And my speakers are separate from that. They're on my desktop. And if I were to test them, click on here. Yes, I hear the ringtone. And I hear my voice. So everything's working fine and I'm done. And then you can adjust your audio settings by going into audio settings. And it brings up a whole nother area here where you can adjust the volume level. I might, you can make it automatic and test it all out there as well. Then we have our video feature here. Again, I'd ask most of you to keep that open so I can see your faces. Some of you have not, but I can mute mine or I can keep it on. I think you'd prefer to see me right now. And then to the right of that is this cool little arrow where you can make sure that you've selected the camera that you're using for this. There are other video settings as well. So if you go into video settings, you can see that if I had a couple of cameras set up, I would see them listed here and I could choose which camera was my primary camera. I have enabled the 16:9 widescreen so that you see as full a screen as possible given the bandwidth of this broadcast. I've enabled high definition, which means you're getting the highest quality video recording and broadcasting that you can from here. And then this, I've got this in a later slide, but we'll talk about it right now. Touch up my appearance is a really cool feature, and the women in the group probably are going to be more interested in this than the men. But you see, I have it turned on right now, and if you look at my face, it has a nice soft focus to it, and you might not know the difference unless I shut it off. You can see there's a bit of a difference, right? It's a little bit rougher. And if you use that touch up my appearance, it just gets softer, a little bit nicer. So I use that for fun. And then this gives you the opportunity also to always display participant names on their video. I keep that on because I'd love to know who is who. I can turn my video off when I join a meeting. I keep that on deliberately because there are times when I connect to a meeting and I need to make some adjustments to my camera. So I like to keep it off until I have that all set to go. You can also hide your non-video participants, but I don't do that. I like to know if someone's connected by phone. You can spotlight your video when you speak. I find that the speaker view and the gallery view are perfectly fine. I don't need to add that feature. And then display up to 49 participants per screen in gallery view. That's what I have set right now. And one last video feature here. You can choose a virtual background. Now, not every one of you is going to see that feature. Not every computer is capable of doing it, but most are, particularly anything built in the last year or two. So if you click on choose a virtual background, it'll bring you back to this settings page. And in here, they have a couple of photos that they allow you to upload from their library, but you also have the option by clicking on this link to upload a video image, an image or a video that you could use in your background. And any of you, let's see, Deb Armstrong, I see you're in Hawaii right now. And Andy, you've got your big background on there too. One that I've been using lately that's kind of fun, that actually almost looks real, is this one. Got a couple of them like that. Makes you feel like you're someplace different. So if you're in a pinch and your room is a total wreck, this is a really great alternative. But unless you like to make this perfect, you can see when I move around, you sometimes see the back of my chair and sometimes you don't. I need to have real even lighting. It would help to have a green screen behind me so everything was just flat. This, to me, it's kind of like Snapchat's, little glasses and furry features. It's not a necessary thing, but it's fun and it's interesting to know about. Okay, next on our menu bar that is really important to know about is the new security button. Those of you that have been hosting for a while will have noticed that this showed up about 10 days ago. And that's because of all of the security breaches and potential breaches that had been happening on Zoom. They stepped up majorly to be able to make things more secure for you. So if you click on this, you have several different options. You can lock the meeting. So right now I could lock it and only those of us that are in here now would be able to be in it. No one else could enter. You could leave, but no one else could come in. I could have enabled the waiting room so that as you came in, you would be in that waiting area, and then you'd have to be approved to come in one at a time or as a whole group. And then I have the ability right here to allow participants to share the screen, to participate in the chat and save it, and to rename themselves. Now I can renege any of these at any time right from here. I don't have to go into the app. I don't have to go into the, the desktop client. I can do it right from here. And I can remove a participant. So one of the reasons that this feature came up is because over the course of the last month, there have been incidences where people they're calling it Zoom bombing. We've got a whole new verb besides just the Zoom, Dean. So they will come in and take over the meeting. They will, share their screen and share real inappropriate material. And this is a way to get rid of them right away. You can just click on that and find the person and get rid of them. So those are some really nice new features that you should be aware of as a host. And then you can manage your participants. Right now we've got 81 people. I click on that and I get a sidebar over here where I see everyone listed who is attending. I can see whether they have muted their microphone or if they have muted or are live with their video. And then I have the opportunity to unmute them if I choose to, or to do several things. I can ask them to start their video if they have muted their video. I can make them a host. So I would relinquish my host and make them a host. I could make someone a co-host, and that's what I've done with Jen. I can rename you, I can put you in a waiting room, and I can remove you from here as well. So those are all really cool features. You all had asked about renaming. So in your little square here where you see your name, like Andy, I'm just kind of picking on you because you were center screen here. When you hover over that square, you see that you have the ability to unmute yourself from there. And then you have 3 dots. If you click on those dots, I don't think I'm going to be able to see everything. This is mine. But in yours, you have the ability to rename yourself. So if for some reason you have just a phone number listed and you'd rather have it be your name, or if it's just your first name but you'd like your full name, or if you'd rather have your business name, that's how you can make that change. And then next to that is our poll area here, and I'll show you how that works. Let me go ahead and close out of the participant view here. So with the poll, here is the sharing poll results. I have not deleted that yet. I am sharing it with you now, but if I relaunch polling, it will clear all of that out and it will go back to the end of the polling. Okay. I've never shown the polling, so I don't know how to get out of this. But anyway, we're done polling. No, not what I wanted to do. That's where the poll feature is. That's where you can set it up. And when you set it up, you can just do, I think, one poll per meeting. You can't have several of them. So if you have one key question that you want to ask people, make sure that that's your poll question. The rest of them you can do in the chat area. And then, of course, the chat function is over here. Look at all the incredible questions you've come up with and comments. Thank you. And right here, I want to show you when you type your message, you have the ability to share it with everyone, or you can send a private message to someone else. They're all listed here. So Jen and I had one or two little messages at the very beginning to be sure everything was running smoothly with the chat. And now there's nothing I need to say privately to her. But again, if you go over to the right-hand side where these three dots are and click on it, there's the ability to save the chat. Okay. And then sharing your screen. If the host has given you the option to be able to share your screen as a participant, you would come here, click on the share screen button, and then it would show all the different screens that you could possibly share. You decide which one it is, and then you click on share. If you are showing anything that has a video with audio attached to it, you want to be sure to click on the share computer sound and optimize screen sharing for the video clip. And when you share it, make sure you have it full screen so people can see it as largely as they need to. Now, I'm not going to share right now because I already am. And then this is the record and pause button to be recording your thing. And then closed captioning. I have another slide coming up that we'll probably skip over a little bit, but this is where you can assign someone to actually type your closed captioning. How many of you have ever been aware that closed captioning was an option? Anybody used it before? Okay, I'll share a quick story because I know we're coming up towards the end of the hour here, but I work with a nonprofit organization that supports families and children and youth with special health care needs across the country. And I oversee the youth project, and this youth group meets monthly to do all of their things, all their projects and what have you. And they all represent a variety of different types of disabilities. One has a hearing impairment. Several of them have developmental delays or processing issues in learning. And so they requested captioning for their meetings a couple of years ago. And you accommodate. That's what you do when you have someone that you're serving who has a disability, and you figure out how that's going to work. So we had never done it before, but I had initiated Zoom as a way for all of us to meet because everyone lives in different parts of the country. It was the easiest way for us to get online and to meet online and see each other face to face. And so I found a third-party business that does nothing but captioning and interpretation. And I had been working with Zoom for years. So we hired them, and now for the monthly meetings, we have someone come into the meeting who does the live captioning right there. It's fabulous. Now, you have the option to type them yourselves, but let me tell you from my experience, I've been in this for a long time working with the disability community, you don't want to try and do it. It's almost impossible unless you were professionally trained. But that is an option, particularly if any of you are doing, events where you really need to be ADA compliant. You need to be sure that you're touching on everyone. And in a meeting like this, to have someone doing sign language interpretation is really tough. And not everyone reads sign language, but just about everyone reads captioning. Then another feature that we have is a breakout room. This is where I could have the ability, we have 81 people, and I could create as many rooms as I wanted to here. And they would divide you up randomly. So if we had 9 rooms and 9 people per room, it would automatically create them. And so right now in breakout room 1, we have this group of 9 people, breakout room 2, this group of people, and so on. And then if I were to click open all rooms, you all would go there. And you would be able to have a small group discussion around whatever topic you wanted to have. And then when it was done, I would set a time and I would send you a message at 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds to finish up what you're saying, and then you automatically come back. And then you always have a button to come back to the main room as well. It is a great option for groups that do networking as part of their meeting function. And I've been participating in several of those, and it's been really, really great. And then here are your little reactions. You can clap. I'd be happy to see any applause that you guys want to give me right now. That'd be wonderful to see.
Marcia, people are asking if the breakout rooms are always random.
No, you can actually figure it all out ahead of time. So for example, if you have people registered for an event, so you know the list of people attending, you can figure out on an Excel spreadsheet beforehand which rooms you want people to be in, and then you can pre-program that before you start your meeting. It's kind of an advanced level, and I don't have that feature set up to show you on my screen, but if you want to know how to do that, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to share that. And then a few other features. Someone was asking, how do you go live on Facebook from Zoom? This is where you do it. Right now we could go live. If I clicked on live on Facebook, there are a few settings that you need to pay attention to, and then you're live. The beauty of this is that Facebook no longer allows you to bring a guest in, so you can only go live by yourself or if someone is physically standing next to you. So if you're doing interviews right now and you want 1 or 2 other people on with you at the same time, this is a great way to do it. You can also go live on YouTube, same thing. So those are the, that's the new menu bar now for hosting meetings. I'm going to stop sharing that for just a second and finish up my slide deck here, and hopefully be able to get 1 or 2 questions in here before we have to go. Let's see, I'll skip over a couple of these. I shared with you some of these features already, so bear with me and we'll go through these quickly. There is so much to know about Zoom, I tell you. We could go on for 5 hours. I won't do that to you. But as I said, I want you guys to be safe. I want you to be sure that when you do host a meeting, you don't get sideswiped, you don't get boom bombed. And just to let you know that Zoom is in the process right now. They're in the middle of a 90-day plan of improvement, and they have hired Facebook's former security person, Alex Stamos, to do that. So don't be surprised if over the next week some new features come up. I'm trying to let people know through Facebook and other social media that that's happening and what they can expect. But in the meantime, passwords are a great way to help secure your meeting. This meeting was kind of funny because I gave the password to Dave without telling him don't share it until people have signed up. You guys all showed up. I didn't expect there to be any trouble with this crowd, but you know, I was trying to live by example, and kind of backfired on me. But take advantage of those new host controls with that security feature. And you can also change what data center regions you're broadcasting to. And that's what the bottom of this screen shows. I know the print is small, but there's a setting for you to go to where you can make adjustments. And right now, I just took this off of my account today. You can see which ones are checked off and which aren't. But you know, if you only want to be broadcasting in the United States, you can just do that. That's an option. Or if you want to include everyone else that's on their list, you can do that, and anything in between. Okay. So some of the cool advanced features that we've already talked about: touch up my appearance, the virtual backgrounds, and the live closed captioning. We've gone through those. So what's next? I know we talked in the networking group, you know, life is going to be different after this. There's not going to be going back to exactly whatever it was that we had. Life is going to be different. And I encourage you to embrace the goodness of what you are learning right now. You know, video in particular is not going anywhere. It has just grown exponentially, and its value has grown exponentially. I think, Dean, you were saying, you know, it is a given now. There is no doubt that we have to have video in our life. But how does it fit the best for you? How does it fit the best for your family, for your business? You know, Big Brother, you know, we're always kind of wondering if that's going to be the next issue that, you know, will be directed all through video. Well, you have control over a lot of it. So control what you can enjoy and love what you can.
Marcia, there are two or three things. One is getting rid of feedback. Another is somebody asked, Carol asked, if the region selection affects service quality. I have no idea. So 49 video view feedback, and does the region that you select in your Zoom settings affect service quality?
So video feedback, I don't know what you mean by that.
I think it's just the static and the internet connection that's what I'm going with. And I think sometimes you really can't.
So particularly if you're hosting, but this really also helps tremendously if you're just participating. If you can have an Ethernet connection to your internet instead of Wi-Fi, you're going to get the strongest connection you can possibly get. Now, it may not 100% be great, but it will be the best that you can get. So you plug it in from the modem to your computer.
He's saying when you hear yourself echo. Thank you. Or she, yeah.
I would need to see your setup, but it may be that you have your speaker on and you have your microphone on, and you're hearing an echo from yourself from your speaker. Anything else?
What's the 49 video view? That didn't mean anything to me. I wasn't sure what that was.
That is when you're in gallery view.
Oh, got it.
You can have up to 49 faces on the screen at once. Yeah.
So I think someone was asking maybe how to get to that. Is that in settings?
That's in your video settings. So if you go into that little white by your stop video icon, there's the little white arrow pointing up, and you go into video settings from there. You'll be able to find that feature and make the adjustment.
I do want to let you know, Marcia, because I know we're wrapping up, that Dave wrote a while ago that you basically broke the NCET mold. You had more participants on this one than any other.
Well, that's because we're all living and breathing Zoom, right? I can tell everyone's been hungry for information. It's
Marcia, you were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I know we've run a couple minutes over time. Thank you for sticking with us. If you would like to contact me for any reason, here is information, and I'd love to help you and serve you in whatever way I can.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. And by the way, a preview for next week, Gabby Hall from Noble Studios will be talking about tools and tips to make your online team more effective. So again, Marcia, thank you. That was an incredibly, I learned so much today. That was a great thing. And thank you for the nearly 100 people who joined us today. And we'll hopefully see you all again soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.